Hey everybody, this is Diane. Hello and welcome to Biters.
And this is Marnell. And what other things do you not know the name of? Jelly beans? That totally took me out of this episode.
Did it really?
Like, how do you go 30 to 40 years without knowing that something is called something as simple as jelly beans? Like, she said she had heard other people, but she thought it was a brand name. But I'm like, no, Ziploc is a brand name, not jelly beans. Jelly beans are jelly beans.
So I totally assumed because she looks Indian that they were writing it off as kind of a cultural thing.
And so I was also thinking, I was like, jelly beans aren't the actual name of them, because sometimes you can't say the name of something, the brand
Right.
name. Like Kleenex, you have to say tissue, or Ziploc, you have to say Zip Top, you know? So I thought they just weren't saying the brand name, but it's Jelly Bellies, not jelly beans. And so,
Right.
again, I thought it was also a cultural thing where that was just the name wherever she was from, the brand name of whatever jelly beans they had.
So I will tell you, and the biters who listened last week know that I just finished a really challenging visit with our mother. And I laughed when Grace said, "My mother was an interesting woman. She both made up her answers and had to be right." I was like, "Oh, she's giving me my moment."
Oh,
I'm still recovering.
yeah. Parents are hard sometimes.
Oh my God. All right, so we're talking about Fear the Walking Dead, Season 5, Episode 10, 210 words
210
per
words
minute.
per minute. Did you know that the average person reads between 200 and 250 words per minute? So listening to something on double speed is really just your average reading.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I actually looked it up because I'm like, I feel like, well, for one, I like listening to what she was listening to on double speed was just exhausting and stressful. So I don't know how she was doing it. Like, usually you read to enjoy, and unless this is like a textbook or something. But yeah, I don't
Did
know.
it say how quickly people usually speak?
No,
I'm
I
curious to know. I'm curious to know how different that is from how quickly people read.
yeah, because that sounded just faster than you would read. But I looked it up, and it's between 200 and 250 words per minute.
Huh. Well, I'm guessing we read much more quickly than we speak.
I think that I read slow, but it depends on what I'm reading. Like if I'm reading something for information, I usually read it quickly. If I'm reading something for pleasure, I have a tendency to like turn my mind inward and visualize everything, so I read it a lot slower.
I'm just thinking you need to read more.
You know what? I thought about it the other day and I was like, between everything, all the articles that I read and all the Twitter that I read and all the IMDb that I read a novel every week.
All right, but it's not the same thing.
Oh, I beg to differ.
I'm going to keep picking on you, so let's get to the numbers.
Alrighty.
So, what was your rating?
So my rating wasn't quite as bad as the episode before last, but it wasn't as good as last episode. I rated it a 3.3 White Mustangs.
So, I was totally mistaken. I read your messages to me as you really liked this episode. So, I was kind of like, I didn't like it as well as you did, but now I'm actually thinking I liked it more than you did.
I'm sure you did.
I rated it 4.01 candy beansies out of 5.
Wow. And see, I knew Candy Beansies was going to be your rating, so
Of course
I
you
was like,
did.
not going to do that. Yeah, so I feel like I'm kind of the opposite of everyone except for the guys that write for Forbes who hate every episode.
Oh my God. So I didn't find Eric Kane's review, but I did find Paul Tassie's. So I'm interested to hear what Eric Kane had to say.
Well, so I feel like I'm opposite of everybody in that I really, really liked last episode and everyone really didn't. And I really did not like this episode.
The
And
last episode was awful.
Thomas O'Mara says that if you didn't like this episode, you need to have your head examined. So I will have you know that I do have an appointment 1:30 tomorrow to have my head examined. And I'm not even kidding.
And we're waiting to find out what the results are.
Right? It's probably not a tumor.
I don't know. Have you had any brain imaging done?
No, actually, I haven't. No,
Hmm.
it's it's probably just stress-related headaches. But when you have them for 4 days, generally you're like, I'm gonna go have my head examined.
Well, all I can say is it's about time.
That I had
This
my head
podcast
examined.
is not sponsored by Emgality. Oh my God. Speaking of podcasts, I was listening to the Joe Rogan Experience today because he interviewed Bernie Sanders
Why? Okay.
way back at the beginning of the month. He interviewed Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
He spends like the first 5 minutes of his podcast talking about his sponsors.
Really?
Really. I don't know if it's every podcast because I probably won't listen to another one until he interviews someone else that I care about. But
Oh,
I
see,
thought,
I hate listen. I listen to his podcast whenever he interviews somebody that I don't like.
oh, that's really funny. Yeah, no, my life is too short to hate listen to things.
You know, I used to kind of like Joe Rogan, but like he's gone a little bit off the rails.
I'm going to admit I didn't know who Joe Rogan was.
Mm, yeah, comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so speaking of not talking about sponsors, so I have to tell everyone my house has been broken into actually a couple of times, and we just figured it out with the things that we noticed were missing, and then they broke in at 1:30 in the morning while we were home sleeping. So we actually just invested in a whole bunch of Ring security products. And now I obsessively watch my dogs in the backyard
This
all day.
podcast not sponsored by
I
Ring.
ring. But I have to tell you, it is so like I actually had to quiet my phone because like every time my dogs walk out the back door, I get a notification that there's motion in my
Oh,
backyard.
that's funny. So the
And
other
I
real housewife was wondering if you had successfully set up your alarm, and apparently you have.
okay, it's super easy. Like seriously, not sponsored by Ring, but like it's pretty idiot proof.
But if you
Like,
have random people breaking into your house stealing booze, this is the
right?
system for you.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's so far that's the only thing that we noticed that was missing, and we ordered some Ring products, and then when they broke in at 1:30 in the morning while they were still home and my wonderful black lab chased them off, terrifying them hopefully to death. They scurried back over the back fence and
And left
yeah,
shoe marks on the fence.
yeah, and we proceeded to order pretty much everything that Ring has, several of them in fact. So, yeah, that's my week.
I'm
How's
feeling
your
a
week?
bit like I have to keep up with the Joneses because we don't have a security system, knock on wood.
Well, you live out in the boonies where like the biggest threat to you right now is wildfire.
Right. So you asked me how my week was. Alaska is burning.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a major fire that has at this point destroyed about 50 structures and displaced numerous families. It's about 18 miles north of us.
I was gonna say it's less than 20 miles from you right now.
And
Yep.
there is another fire that is about 6 or 7 miles east of us.
That's terrifying.
So our bug out bag is packed.
Mm-hmm.
We have a plan to take the horses out first, even if it looks like it's starting to encroach. Even before an evacuation is called, we'll evacuate them, and then we'll come back and get the rest of the house. So yeah, Alaska's burning.
So yeah, I guess what we're saying is if you pray, please pray for water. And
Right?
if you don't, I don't know, I'd start thinking about sacrificing some goats.
And if you have extra money, send some money to the Red Cross because they're working their tails off for the people who've been displaced right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And other than the last couple of years, wildfire is not something people in Alaska are very used to, at least not in our living areas.
It's tragic.
Yeah.
It's terrible, and it's actually threatening areas that were impacted by the Sockeye fire 4 years ago. So there is a chance that people who rebuilt 4 years ago are going to be looking at rebuilding again.
Oh,
At this point, it has not made it that far south, and I'm hoping it doesn't, but it's very close to the boundaries of the Sockeye fire.
So anywhere that there's any sort of natural disaster like tornadoes, floods, earthquakes, things like that, I really want people to rebuild stuff that survives whatever the natural disaster in that area is. So like I'm thinking at this point, stop using stick construction, start using stone. Maybe some earth
Yeah,
berm.
you've never seen fires like these fires.
That's true. That's very true.
It's devastating.
Oh.
So
It's
yeah,
it's the apocalypse, everyone.
right? So let's get back to our favorite apocalypse, the zombie apocalypse. All right, so the numbers for this episode, the headline on TV by the numbers was Fear the Walking Dead holds. So I don't have numbers for the week, but I have numbers for Sunday. And it maintained its 18 to 49 rating that it had last week. So there were about 400,000 people in that age group who watched it. The overall number was slightly lower, so it was 1.4 million last week. It was 1.37 million this week. So essentially the same.
Right.
Still beat out by 90 Day Fiancé. Sixth overall in the 18 to 49 group. Beat Ted Bundy, Mind of a Monster.
What?
Right? I was like, oh, I'm going to have to find that and watch it.
Exactly. I think I would have rather been watching that.
For those of you who are interested, it apparently is a new show on Investigation Discovery.
Oh, of course it is.
So I'm going to be looking for that.
Man, I think that's probably one of the only reasons why I still have cable. Although I could probably find them on some other platform.
Well,
I'm
I
just
was kind
lazy.
of figuring that I would look and see if I could find it on another platform because I missed it on cable, but we'll see. We'll see if I decide to pay for it or not.
I was going to say there's always the on demand. At least we have on demand for certain channels that we can catch
that
up
means I
stuff
have
on.
to figure out how to do it, which means I have to find a password, which yada yada yada. It's just easier to pay $2 to Amazon.
I know it's just easier to keep like the auto payment going to cable than having to set up an entirely new platform for watching TV.
Right there with ya.
Seriously, the only reason why I still pay $300 a month for cable and internet.
Yep, that's about where we're at too.
Oy.
All right, so the episode title, 210 words per minute. You have it exactly right. It's the speed at which Grace was listening to her book.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I would do a little bit of a deep dive on the book because although I have read books by Dickens, I have not read A Tale of Two Cities. Have you?
Of course you've read books by Dickens.
Come on, I was in AP English. I had to read books by Dickens.
Sure. Weren't there Cliff's Notes?
I have never read a Cliff's Note in my life. I pride myself.
Are we even related?
We've got to be because we both like the same gothy Halloween fabric.
Right? Story for another time.
I did buy fabric this weekend. I bought more fabric on Saturday than our mother did. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I bought more fabric on Saturday than our mother did.
Is it in your bug out bag?
No, it's not. So hopefully we survive the flaming apocalypse. All right. So I thought this was really cool because it really does kind of speak to the themes that they're trying to talk about in Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. So I did find a site called www.sparknotes.com, which is kind of like Cliff Notes, but super short. Yeah. And they said that in A Tale of Two Cities, Dickens asserts his belief in the possibility of resurrection and transformation, both personal and societal.
Huh.
Which is exactly what we're talking about in Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, right?
I'm so glad you did the deep dive.
The other thing that was really interesting is that A Tale of Two Cities is set during the French Revolution, and one of the themes that Dickens covers over and over again, according to the site anyway, is that violence will give way to a new and better society. Again, perfect for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, I've actually been watching some stuff lately on how our society is basically cyclical. Anytime there's a great expansion of knowledge and peace and wealth and health and things like that, that we like abruptly start regressing back into, basically the Dark Ages. And so it would stand to reason that once we kind of come out of that brutality, that, we go back to an enlightened age.
Okay, so now we're entering comparative religions hour. It's interesting that you say that because the Hindus believe that we live in particular ages, and each age is kind of related to a god or a goddess in their mythic presentation. And right now they say that we're living in the Kali Yuga, which is like the most degraded, violent, horrible age before everything gets destroyed and reborn.
That sounds fantastic. Can we do that?
We live in the Kali Yuga. That sounds wonderful. Kali, in case anybody wants to look it up.
I think I might actually look that up. That sounds interesting.
All right. So real quickly, our writers were Andrew Chambliss and Ian Goldberg, the showrunners. And I got into a bit of a conversation with Thomas O'Mara and Aim for the Head. And I think it was Diana who was responding, but she was making the point that these writers seem to do better when they're dealing with a small cast. Because I know that she liked this episode better. And again, Tom O'Mara really liked this episode. And he pointed out that Jenna Elfman was not in it. So he said we can't peg it just on Jenna Elfman being in the series.
See, maybe it's because Alicia wasn't in this episode that I didn't like it.
Steve probably didn't like it either. And just a quick response to Brian Maloche from last week. So he said that it was David Johnson, not David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, who wrote last week's episode. It's actually the same dude. He was just writing under David Johnson.
Oh.
So we were both right.
Yeah, David Johnson's a pretty common name. I think I may do the whole 4-name name if I wanted to stand out. So I wonder why he switches back and forth.
Well, maybe he didn't want to stand out given how poorly received last week's episode was.
Well, David, I liked it.
You and like 2 other people.
Probably your mom. And I mean that in a good way. Your mom likes everything you do.
Right. All right. Our director, so get this. His name is Ron Underwood. And when I looked him up, he directed Tremors. He directed City Slickers.
Okay, but not only did he direct Tremors, but he also wrote Tremors. Tremors 2, Tremors 4, the TV series Tremors, and Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell.
And let's just be honest, Tremors, the first movie, is a classic movie.
Oh, love it. Kevin Bacon at his finest.
Mm-hmm. And Reba McEntire.
Oh my goodness, I completely forgot about that.
Right?
Oh.
So the other thing that was kind of cool about Ron Underwood is that he has worked on a whole bunch of TV, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Grey's Anatomy, Castle, but he's got 17 episodes of Once Upon a Time.
Which always ties into our Walking Dead universe somehow.
Well, it ties into our showrunners directly because they both wrote for Once Upon a Time. So I would be very surprised if they had not worked with Ron Underwood in the past.
Right. Yeah, Ron Underwood is definitely no slouch. He has got a ton of director credits.
58 director credits overall.
This is his first Fear the Walking Dead credit.
Yes, it is. He could direct again. I think he did a good job. You and I are differing about this week, but he could direct again.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's the directing. I really just think it was the overall subject matter of the show.
Boy. Okay, I'm going to say something from my writing potpourri right now.
Okay.
I actually really liked the plot. I thought taking a side detour to kill someone who was begging to be put down and buried humanely, and to kind of raid this huge mall that supposedly had all of these supplies was totally believable.
Oh my God, we will so get into that.
All right, before we get into our featured cast, I am once again going to say, here's the podcast I'm listening to this week. The Man in the Window. Have you heard of it?
I think you've said this one before, haven't you?
It's about the Golden State Killer.
Okay, I swear to God we've
I
mentioned
don't
it.
think we've talked about it because I just finally sat down and listened to it this week.
Oh,
It was creepy.
yeah, I that is a book I have actually read was Patton Oswalt's deceased wife.
I'll be gone in the dark.
Yes, and I listened to that podcast, but and reading the book led me to listening to the podcast, or maybe it was the other way around. But I did read that book.
You read. Yay, I'm so proud of you.
Well, it was about a serial killer, like I could resist.
Right. So that's my podcast recommendation for the week.
Serial killers and apocalypse.
Yes.
Nothing better.
Unfortunately, I don't have a Preacher podcast to recommend this week because you and I are still behind on Preacher.
Yeah, it's getting a little tough.
But I will tell people I had the weirdest experience. So I was telling you before we signed on tonight, and I sent you a text. My track for my DVR was off by like 2 sentences. So I was trying to watch Preacher, and like Preacher was bleeding over into the commercials, and then the commercials would run through the soundtrack for the first couple of sentences of Preacher, and it was so disconcerting and so disorienting.
But of course, for those of you who don't watch Preacher, this episode started out with Jesse on a kind of a drug trip. And so Diane thought it was totally part of the show.
At first, probably for about the first 10 minutes that it was going on, I thought, oh my God, this is a total gimmick about Jesse being high. No, I really do think it was my soundtrack for the DVR.
I forget where, I was like sitting in a circus or something, and like something terrible happened off to the right while like the clowns were performing or something, and we were all sitting there like, is this part of the show?
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't. It was not part of the show at all.
That was exactly the way Preacher felt.
That's funny.
All right, take us into our featured cast.
So our featured cast member is kind of a one and done. It was Charlie Bowden, aka Chuck. So there really isn't a lot out there about him. This is, of course, his first and only Fear the Walking Dead credit. He is regularly on a show called Good Trouble, which is on Freeform, which is the old, I think, ABC Family channel. And Good Trouble is actually a spinoff of a show called The Fosters. And Good Trouble just got a second season, so I'm not sure if Charlie is going to be on that, but he was in 8 episodes of Good Trouble, and that seems to be his biggest credit, other than a TV series that was from 2014 to 2017 called Halt and Catch Fire.
Which was on AMC.
Was it?
Yes, so that is kind of his link to AMC and this property.
Oh, that's funny that he only got just a one and done. Maybe like every once in a while they'll do kind of the anthology like they did with the Red Machete. Maybe we'll get Charlie's backstory someday.
It would be cool, but I doubt it.
Not total backstory, but just like, a web series of
I haven't seen that they're doing the webisodes. They kind of stopped doing that a couple of years ago.
I thought that they were going to do them with the new series. I thought I read something about some web series coming up or happening or something. I'll have to find that and see if I can post it.
Okay.
So his first acting credit is the TV show Without a Trace. And he's had a lot of one-offs like Cold Case, Will and Grace. He was in Wizards of Waverly Place. CSI Miami,
and NCIS.
NCIS, yeah.
Which I've got to tell you, my husband has one of the 2 of those playing constantly in the background.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, it's maddening.
I always have probably Dateline ID or something like that, 2020 or something on in the background that has killers or serial killers. He did have a small role in the movie Insurgent.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I read those books.
Those were great books. I was bummed that the movies didn't get more traction.
I know, the movies weren't that great. He has also been tweeting a lot at Charlie Bowden on Twitter about a TV series he has been in one episode of, but it just got a second season. So I don't know if he's going to be in the subsequent seasons, but it's a show on the BET channel called Boomerang. I don't know if it's kind of like the movie from the mid 90s Boomerang.
That was Halle Berry and Eddie
Murphy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, we're dating ourselves.
Right? So he is married, and his Twitter profile just went down for me, unfortunately. His wife is an actress.
I was just going to say that. She's an actress named Paula Rhodes.
There we go, Paula Rhodes. And actually, I've probably seen more stuff she's in than he's in, except he has a YouTube channel. And if you go to Charlie Bowden's YouTube channel, you will see all of the television commercials he has been in.
That was the thing that was surprising to me when I looked him up on YouTube.
Right? So there's probably like 30 or 40 commercials here. And they're for big national, like, he's been in Toyota, Bud Light, Taco Bell, Del Taco, Chevy, Citi,
Hyundai,
Progresso Soup. Yeah, he's a big car guy. Marriott, Allstate, Subway, Walmart, Dunkin' Donuts, Verizon, Southwest Airlines. And so he's actually been in 2 commercials that have been Super Bowl commercials. The first one was a Toyota commercial, and the second one was just recently, 6 months ago. It was the Olay, the Oil of Olay commercial.
Oh, how funny.
It has Sarah Michelle Gellar in it, so I had to watch it.
Ah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Like a killer breaks into their home, and they're hiding in their bedroom, and she's trying to unlock her phone to call the police, and her phone won't recognize her face. Because she's been using Oil of Olay. So it was a really funny commercial. But yeah, so he is a big commercial guy.
So at first, when I saw some of the commercials, I was like, really? Is this the same guy? So I went and compared his IMDb picture to faces from the commercial. And I was like, it really is the same guy.
It really is the same guy. So yeah, he does a lot of commercial work, and they're super funny. Like I said, I haven't seen a lot of what he's been in as far as movie and television, but I've probably seen a lot of his commercials. And for those of you who do want to follow him on Twitter, he is a super lefty. So if that is not your thing, don't follow or don't hate. But yeah, so unfortunately, he's a one and done. After watching a couple things that he's been in, commercials and other stuff on YouTube, commercials for his shows, I'm kind of disappointed that he isn't going to be a member of the main cast. I mean, I guess we got to kill some people some of the time, but I don't know. He just seems like a funny guy.
To seriously kill somebody.
Yeah.
And not just somebody who is a one and done.
No. Like a few of those kids. So that was Charlie, aka Chuck. Like I said, not much out there, but it looks like he has quite a career by himself. So,
well, I have a few things for Whisperer's Corner. It's not huge, but there were a few things.
Okay.
First is that Michael Rooker has been cast in Fast and Furious 9.
I had no idea there were 9 of them.
I know.
Yeah, like I've seen like 2.5.
I've got to be honest, haven't seen him. Husband's seen him.
I always seem to catch the second one, the one that like has almost absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the series.
Well, eventually someday I'll probably give in and watch them, but today is not that day.
That's going to be like a weekend binge.
Oh, there's so many other things I'd rather spend my weekend on.
That's like 18 hours worth of TV, of movies.
Although I am finally knitting again, and I'm knitting a baby blanket, so maybe I need like 9 hours of mindless movies.
And And the soundtracks can totally be off because you won't be looking at the screen.
Right. So also in Whisperer's Corner, and this is a big thing that I just found out about tonight, and it was funny, I had just come across the magazine article when Thomas O'Mara sent me a message on Facebook. Christian Serratos has been cast on Netflix's Selena.
Wow. I didn't even know Netflix was doing a Selena.
So it is supposed to span 2 seasons, and it's supposed to begin production next month. So Tom was saying that he really felt like this meant that Rosita is probably going to get killed off this season.
You know, we've been talking about it.
Yeah, but now Rosita's going to leave a baby behind.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's not that shocking. We thought they were gonna kill the pregnant woman, let alone leave a baby. But of course, you know, that baby's gonna have 3 daddies. So,
and she is on borrowed time because Rosita was gone in the comic books by this point.
Yes and no. I mean, who really is on borrowed time at this point, even if they're dead in the comics?
Ironically, if Rick were still around, Rick would not be on borrowed time. Carl would not be on borrowed time.
No, we're completely off the map.
Spoiler for a comic series that is now finished.
That had a ton of headlines about 6 weeks ago.
Right. All right. So I did not see Eric Kane's review, but Paul Tassie's review of this episode was titled Fear the Walking Dead just made Morgan do something unforgivable. So he did not like that Morgan bailed on Grace when Grace needed him the most.
So Eric mentions that in his review, and he actually links to Paul's review in his review.
Oh, that's funny.
So Eric's title was Fear the Walking Dead, Season 5, Episode 7 Review. Another terrible, no good, very bad episode.
Oh!
You guys are right up my alley. I mean, I don't quite loathe it as much as they did, but yeah, this episode just didn't speak to me.
I didn't loathe it. I mean, I gave it a B. I gave it a solid B.
This episode certainly didn't speak to me at 210 words per minute.
All right, so The Walking Dead and The Jimmy Kimmel Show got fined by the FCC this week.
I see that. For good reason.
So, I don't know that it was great reason, but Jimmy Kimmel's Show is paying nearly $400,000 to the FCC, and Walking Dead was fined a little over $100,000 for overuse of emergency tones in their shows. And it was apparently the episode Omega where emergency tones were used twice. So that's why The Walking Dead is having to write a fat check to the U.S. Treasury.
So I completely agree with this fine, and I also think that they should expand upon it. And any music that has sirens in it that will play on the radio in your car should get fined.
Do you really agree with it for a television show?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. I was totally sucked in.
I just wanted to harp on the fact that I hate that when there's a song that has sirens in it and you're in your car and you're like, where is it? Where is it?
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm annoyed more at whenever they do the emergency alert test at like 2 a.m. on a Wednesday morning and your TV's running than I am having it on a show. But I get, that you really shouldn't overuse it on a show that's not emergent.
I certainly wouldn't get distressed by it being used on The Walking Dead, probably because I was so engaged in The Walking Dead, it seemed like it fit in that episode.
Think anybody who's watching The Walking Dead would, be actively watching it, not just have it on in the background. And if you did, it's probably a rerun. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like a weird fine.
I totally get it, but yeah, I guess let that be a lesson to us all.
Yeah, don't misuse emergency tones because the fines are hefty. Phil,
Oh, that's right.
Uh, all right. Rosita's baby girl has a name, and I'm probably not going to pronounce it right, but it looks like it's Socorro, Soccorro. The nickname that goes with it is Coco.
Oh.
And the way that they named her is apparently this is a family name in Christian Serratos's family, and it means relief or help in Spanish.
Huh. Interesting. I like Coco.
Oh, what was that?
I like Coco.
Yeah. All right, my very last thing, and this is probably in your writing potpourri, is that this episode of Fear the Walking Dead was actually a tribute to the 1978 classic Dawn of the Dead.
Yes, it was. It's my favorite of the Dead.
I will tell you, it's my most memorable of the Dead.
Well, and I liked the remake, too.
I've never seen the remake. Can you believe that?
No.
So, speaking of movies that I've never seen, and now I'm going to get stuck watching them, there apparently is some sort of zombie apocalypse movie that sounds atrocious being made by the Sharknado people.
Yes! Yes! Oh, Zombie Wave, I think?
I think so. And hubby was like, you know your sister's going to make you watch it and review it.
Oh, I don't know. I'll watch it first and see if it's bad enough or good enough. Zombie Tidal Wave, and it is one of like the Sharknado-y because it has Ian Ziering in it.
It sounds appalling.
Oh God, I don't know. I may have to seriously drink while watching it.
When does it come out?
I think it's already out.
I am assuming it's direct to Sci-Fi.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we may have to do that in off season. We'll have to create a drinking game to go with it to make it tolerable.
Right? Exactly.
With that, let's get into our goods, bads, and uglies.
Alrighty.
So tell me your good, if you have one.
So I did have one. I actually liked the Charlie storyline. I liked that there was a guy who reached out because he wanted to do some good on his way out. Like I kind of always feel like that would be me. If I had gotten bitten, I would be the one to like lead the zombies away because I was a goner anyway. So I really like how Charlie reached out and was like, I heard you guys can help, and I really just want you to come and basically put me down and bury me under the stars. Like, don't let me be one of those things. And that he had this miraculous stockpile of a mall that nobody had touched and that he'd been able to keep safe for an undetermined amount of time. But I like that he, was just like, you guys are doing good. I'm going to die anyway. Please come do good with my stuff. So I like that. And I also liked in the end, they didn't actually find him walking around as a walker. They actually were able to meet him and talk to him and give him a little bit of peace on a cloudy night.
You and I had exactly the same good.
Aww.
And that's what I brought up earlier, so I'm glad that you brought it up. And the thing that I wrote is, so often we complain of a manufactured plot, like a snowstorm, like last season's snowstorm on the main Walking Dead, so that the Walking Dead could just film snow. Mm-hmm. But I actually believe that our survivors would track this guy down. Right.
I mean, he said it in his radio to them that he was like, I have all of this stuff that you guys can use. And I mean, I even have an urgent care and, all this other stuff. And so, of course, like there was a time on the episode where they were like, I think it was Dwight was like, I can't believe we tracked this guy down just to kill him. And it's like, well, we didn't just track the guy down to kill him. We also came to get all of the, rock hard candy and urgent care supplies. Candy beansies and urgent care supplies. And GNC supplies.
They totally were stuck in a GNC. Every mall has a GNC.
Okay, and every mall that has a GNC, they have the roll down gate. I'm sorry, they do. Like, it's not just a little like storefront with glass. Like, they all have the roll down gate.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, just had to go.
Sorry.
Even well, I get the urgent care having the gate because medical supplies, but GNC's like that's kind of their standard box store thing. They have to have the roll down gate because let's be honest, protein whey is super expensive.
And all I have to say is, ooh, protein whey. I don't know that I'd want to spend the zombie apocalypse eating that, although it is a good source of protein.
So, as someone who has actually done the Soylent diet, and if you don't know what it is, look it up. And Soylent is not people. It's not terrible. You kind of just get used to anything, or you make it better. Like you could, like I would add cold brew coffee to my Soylent, so it would be coffee flavored Soylent. So yeah, no, I mean it would be really good in the zombie apocalypse. It's all of your nutrition in one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that store was a gold mine.
That mall was a gold mine.
Yeah, an unspoiled gold mine. Other than however he let 60 zombies in. How did that happen?
Maybe they were stuck there.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think he was careless.
All right. Go ahead.
All that long in that mall by himself. No raiders, no zombies, and like just one day, like the hinges rot off a door and they all get in. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for it.
But that was your good and my good. Somehow.
Yes.
So should I move on to my bad?
Tell me what your bad was.
Dwight.
Really?
Yes. So hear me out on this one.
Okay, because I really liked Dwight in this episode. So go ahead.
I loved Dwight in this episode, except he did the thing that we have been complaining about that our group has been doing all of season 5A. And that was, I'm going to risk my life to save somebody. I'm going to go out of my way to probably get shot in the head by some rando in order to save their soul. It annoyed me so bad that
Really?
Yeah, that he was just like, oh, I'm going to unload my gun and I'm going to let myself get captured. And this guy's probably going to shoot me in the head or torture me so that they can find the oil fields. But I'm going to save him. No, you're not. No. Like, imagine you as a savior. Look how much it took to save you. There was no just one guy talking you into it. You had to basically get totally fed up with Negan and the saviors, and you had to trust a whole bunch of other people, and your wife had to leave you. No, you were not saving this other guy. I'm sorry. And you totally risked your life and the group to do it. And it annoys me when people do that.
Huh.
Plus, zip ties are super easy to get out of. Look at Al. How many times has she been zip tied?
Yeah, no. I was thinking that's exactly what Al would have said.
He's like biting at him with his teeth, and all you have to do is clasp your hands, especially if they're in front of you. Clasp your hands together, and then you like pull down really hard, and they separate as like your elbows go out of your outside of your body. They go out from your rib cage. That's all you have to do to break those flimsy little zip ties. Trust me. I'm a chick who's taken self-defense classes ad nauseum. That's how you break zip ties that are tied in front.
I'll file that away. I didn't know that.
It's terrible that that people have to know that, but especially those little white flimsy zip ties. Those are so easy to get. In fact, he probably could have actually chewed through them in the amount of time that he was left alone, but I digress.
That would have ruined the storyline.
Actually would have made it better because then he could have cold cocked the guy as soon as he opened the thing. Yeah, no, we griped about it all last season, or all earlier this season, that people are putting themselves and the group at risk to save people who don't want to be saved. So that was my bad.
Well, my bad is also something that we've griped about off and on for the past at least season, maybe a little bit longer. It was so dark. Again, there's gotta be some kind of production thing that they can do to make those dark scenes still dark but actually watchable.
Yeah, and I just keep going to back to the whole. I think they're filming them for their equipment and not taking into account that most people are watching these on TVs that are more than 4 years old, you know?
My
Like,
TV is brand new.
yeah,
So it's
but
not a TV issue,
no,
it's a
it's not.
production issue.
It is. It is. It's. I don't know if they're filming it for cinematic release or that's how their equipment films it or. But yeah, I didn't notice it so much this episode.
It
Probably.
wasn't the whole episode, so it was the scenes with Dwight and Raleigh,
Mhm.
and it was some of the scenes with Morgan and Grace.
Yep.
But it wasn't the whole episode. But there were times again where I was like, I can't see a thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that was
I know I'm
that wasn't.
old. I know I need bifocals. I know I'm complaining about my hip, but I can't see anything.
Oh, that's funny. First, like the first bunch of seasons for Walking Dead, we all complained about the sound. We all needed sound bars, and now we're complaining about the lighting.
Yeah, I don't know. That was my thing. We've talked about it before. I'll probably talk about it again. I really, really, really wish that they would do something about it.
Yeah. And like we've said, that they're not the only ones who have the issue because, of course, Game of Thrones had that complaint also.
So I'm still not far enough in Game of Thrones where it's an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the funny thing is it seems like to just be an issue these past couple of years for shows. I don't remember complaining about this, 5, 6 years ago. So this is some sort of new filming that they're doing.
Well, it's not good. I am not
No.
happy.
No.
All right, speaking of goods or bads or uglies, tell me you're ugly.
So my ugly has been my good and my bad and my ugly at some point, and it is the tapes. I don't know if this is good or bad. It's definitely ugly, but everyone has seen everyone's tape, and I feel like they're causing more problems than they're solving. So of course the guy that captured Dwight, that's how he knew Dwight's soft spot. The guy last episode who got his bike shot up, he was watching a tape. I mean, they're intentionally leaving these tapes behind to tell the story. And also seems like all the bad that comes from that, you also have this kind of awkward thing where our group doesn't really talk to each other like they should, but they've all seen each other's tape. So that's like, well, how did you know that about me? Well, it was on your tape, like, why would you open up on the tape and not to your friends in the group? The tapes seem to be causing a lot of woe. I'm over the tapes. I've been over the tapes. I think, yeah. I have been sick of Al chasing the quote unquote story for a really long time.
I know you've been sick of that.
And I think the tapes are gonna wind up being a bad thing. So I know they want to convince everyone of their do-gooder ways and everything, but I feel like the tapes can be used against you by bad people. So I don't know if I'd be putting them out there. I don't know if I'd want mine out there.
Well, cult recruitment tape. Call your dad, you're in a cult.
Would you like to know more? So that was my ugly. What was yours?
So my ugly, actually, for the first time in a while, was a good ugly. And I'm going to say that we got to see stuff that made us... the stuff that is really the reason that we love The Walking Dead. We got to see glimpses of our survivors at their best. So I actually thought that Dwight giving Raleigh that second chance... I thought that really nice, gentle interaction that Grace and Morgan had with Chuck when they found him.
Yeah, I
Like
really liked that.
like Grace making the stars, the lights for
Hmm.
Chuck, them burying Chuck. And then I actually thought that the ending between Morgan and Grace was really touching, although I know that it's gotten a lot of heat from people like Paul Tassi.
And Eric.
So I felt like we saw some things that reminded me why I love The Walking Dead, because there are those soft, heartfelt moments.
Yeah, and I get that this is why they're trying to do good. They really are trying to help people, and they have helped some people. I mean, they helped Tess and her son, and, they helped all of the kids, and now they've done this good thing for Chuck. And I don't know, maybe Dwight got to that guy, but I doubt it.
I'm
So,
willing to believe that he did.
you think? You think all of a sudden he's just going to turn coat and be like, I'm for the good guys now?
I'm willing to believe that he did.
Well, maybe he'll be our featured cast member next episode when he's all do-gooder and stuff. Oh,
Well, so any rotting potpourri?
you mean other than this was Dawn of the Dead, the minor prequel?
Right.
So you and I have actually joked about everyone jokes about where they would go in the zombie apocalypse. And of course, our answers are always like Costco and Home Depot and the gun store. And, one of mine is the veterinarian clinic, because a lot of people are going to be are going to be raiding the hospital and urgent cares, but not a whole lot of people are going to be. There's not going to be a lot of competition for the veterinary clinics, and they have all
One
the
word, ketamine.
Here I was thinking antibiotics and steroids and stuff, but okay. And then again, I was asking you about Apoquel tonight for my headaches,
Right.
which for those of you who don't know, it's a doggy antihistamine.
Yeah, let's just be sure that no one out there is taking Apoquel for their headaches. Not a good plan.
I watched the wrong advertisement on TV. What can I say? Sometimes the signals get crossed. That's why I'm having my head checked tomorrow. Yeah, but they've done a lot of homages to a lot of Romero products and other things. Some creep show stuff and things like that. But I love the idea of holding up in a mall. Most malls, some malls, maybe. It depends on how many windows there are facing outward, I guess. But, this mall had a second story, which the malls in Juneau do not. So they were relatively protected. I think that it was either Eric or Paul who pointed out that do zombies not know how to go up escalators when the power's out?
It must have been Eric.
So I thought that was funny because it was totally true. That none of them had gotten upstairs in spite of how easily it would have, happened. But, and it's kind of hard to believe at this point in the apocalypse that a mall wouldn't have been picked clean. But I guess maybe there are some malls out there that you could have still been standing. There's actually an outlet mall. Whenever we go to Vegas, it's on the border of California, and it's kind of far out of the way. So I can kind of see maybe people not being there when stuff happens, but there's road signs for it everywhere. I can only imagine that people driving along would be like, "Hey, let's go to the mall and restock." Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I do like the homage to Dawn of the Dead.
So I will point out that the opening credits had the carousel and the music from the carousel.
Which is creepy. I don't know why. Carousel music's creepy. There's too many, horror movies and stuff with carousels in them now. I'm jaded.
So you obviously have not watched American Gods.
I have.
The House on the Rock.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it has that really massive carousel.
Yeah. Which is a legit place, by the way.
I don't know if it really has a carousel, but yes, it is a legit place.
Yeah, the House on the Rock. Hmm.
I was happy to see Skidmark
Yes. But
again.
I think it's weird he keeps him in the back of the bed of the truck.
Yeah, I
Keep
agree.
him,
He needs
keep
to
him in
ride
the
in the
cab.
cab. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Because
also thought it was super funny that Daniel was like, "Is there a Cinnabon? A Sin City? A Bunnery?"
that was great. I did love that. Are those real places? I mean, I know Cinnabon is.
I'm assuming that because we live blighted lives and we live in Alaska and don't see what the greater world has to offer, there must be a Sin City and a Bunnery somewhere.
Interesting.
I do want to know how'd they get power to charge the iPod? And don't tell me the generator.
Okay, and so if they did use the generator to power the iPod, why the hell didn't he go around and turn off all the lights and Wizmos in the mall when he was using the generator?
So it didn't suck the generator dry, you mean?
Right? Like, let me just power this one room and this iPod. You know?
Which, by the way, Thomas O'Mara pointed out to me that she called the generator Jenny, which is, of course, the name of Dwight's wife. So he
But
felt like there was kind of that reference to Dwight's wife and Dwight's wife making that last hurrah on the carousel with them together possible. Or not Dwight's wife, I'm sorry, Dwayne, or good Lord, Morgan! Morgan!
Morgan's wife.
Ah!
Morgan's wife. Is that why you think maybe that he kind of got the opposite feels? Like he started getting the feels, but then he was like, nope, got to cut that off. I'm going to go see what Al's doing.
So the point that Paul Tassi made in his article, so I'm not making an original point here, I'm stealing, is that basically he was shutting down getting close to someone, that he didn't want to lose someone again.
Yeah, but like, okay, I get it. Like, you don't want to get close to someone you know that's going to die. So you're just going to leave that person to die alone with like these sort of half feelings of you and them and what you could be or what you couldn't. Like, I don't know. I just think
I
that's really
definitely
cold.
got the feeling that they were not going to see each other again.
Oh, that's so sad.
And it's meant to be.
I just thought Morgan was better than that.
Yeah, and again, that's the point that Paul Tassi made. You know, the writing of this character is such that he's at the point where he's over Morgan. He said, I want to be really clear, it's not Lenny James, but I'm over the way that they're writing Morgan.
He wants to reach out and help everybody, but he doesn't want to make any sort of meaningful connection. That makes no sense to me. I mean, he started to make a meaningful connection with Alicia, and then she's like, I got my own thing. And so now he's just going to be like blowing everyone off. Like, was that the trigger? Yeah, I don't know.
I think that being really pulled down into memories of Jenny and Dwayne was the trigger.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be it. But we also do call our generators Jennies here.
That was what I thought of when Thomas O'Mara said,
Yeah.
did you notice what he called the generator? And I'm like, Jenny. And then I went, oh, his
Yeah.
wife.
It didn't even compute with me because that's what we call generators here is Jennies. Yeah. That's funny.
I did like, as I said, Dwight, and I really thought that there was a good balance between angry Dwight and hopeful Dwight. I thought he was pretty resolute, and I enjoyed the way that Austin Emilio played the character in this episode.
I enjoy Austin Emilio anyway, and I really kind of like clean shaven Dwight.
I was going to ask you what your feels about that were.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I love scruff. Like, I do live in Alaska, of course. Most of our men are very scruffy, and, you know, that's cool. We're into it. But every once in a while, it's like, that clean shaven guy's got it going on.
I'm not sure how I feel about clean shaven Dwight. It might be
I like
different
him.
if he wasn't clean shaven, scarred Dwight, but
That is always just so weird to see.
mm-hmm.
Like I told you, I've watched the episode of him and Norman Reedus and Ride, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so surreal because that's not how I know him. It's like meeting someone like how he is as Dwight, and then him getting plastic surgery to not be Dwight. Like it's not like he was a regular guy and then he got burned. For me, he's burned and then he's a regular guy. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's very backwards. And so I don't know, like, and I was actually thinking this episode when he was clean shaven. I was like, he had made mention of his scars earlier to the guy who kidnapped him. He's like, it doesn't look like I've been through worse. And honestly, for the most part, I don't even see the scars. For me, that's Dwight. It's like I've had friends who have dropped a ton of weight, like halved their body size. And I don't really see it because it's that they weren't their weight. They're still them, and so it's very hard for me to, compute that something has changed. That's just them.
Yeah, I don't know. When I think about it, it is hard for me to think of Austin Emilio without the scars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, anything else in particular?
I did not have a lot this episode. This episode,
Oh, I did have one other thing. So I just really thought that Raleigh's comments about Sherry being good snatch were really gross and
oh,
really kind of out of character for Walking Dead.
yeah,
They were a little bit shocking. I was a little bit taken aback.
I
And I'm
agree.
not a prude by any stretch, but that was a little appalling.
Yeah, that's probably one of the things that, like the way he was talking and he was like, oh, maybe I'll go find her myself,
Right.
I was just like, this is not a guy you're going to convince, you know? Mm, no, there's no helping this guy. I don't think that he's going to be making the crossover to good guy town soon.
Yeah, that was definitely yuck.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, now I don't think I have anything else. But that really bothered me a lot. And again, not a prude, but it just really bothered me.
Yeah. And so going back to what we were talking about earlier, the average human reads 2 to 250 words per minute, but the average person speaks at approximately 100 to 130 words per minute.
There you go.
So we speak slower than we read.
We read at about twice the speed.
Yep.
One more thing, and this came from Thomas O'Mara. Grace did finally ride that white stallion. Although I will point out, as someone who's had horses, that there is no way a dude ranch is going to try to put an 8-year-old girl on a stallion Mustang
No,
or a
not.
Mustang stallion. There's just
No.
no way.
Nope. Not unless the thing is like 23 years old.
So you were taken out of the episode by the Candy Beansies. I was taken out of the episode by the really erroneous horse reference.
Well, when she's like, when I was 8, I really loved horses. And I'm like, what 8-year-old girl doesn't really love horses?
But again, most dude ranches not going to put an 8-year-old on a Mustang stallion.
No, no, we start out with the old nag.
Right.
That's funny.
All right. I think I am done. It's interesting to me that finally we get to one that I liked better than you.
It is. It is. Oh my God, I'm gonna go have to watch Zombie Tidal Wave because it is out. It came out on the 17th.
All right. You'll have to tell me whether or not we're reviewing it at some point.
Yeah, it'll probably be on Saturday because I'll probably spend my night drinking on Friday and watching it.
Well, and so we have to decide when we're podcasting Preacher number 3.
And that's very true.
So we won't be reviewing Zombie Tidal Wave this weekend.
No, but I did have some feedback about our Meg episode, and I think I told you this on the air that my friend finds your voice sexy.
Yes, and now I'm going to be red again.
But he also wants us to do 47 Meters Down Uncaged. It's another shark movie that's coming up.
All right.
And there's another shark movie coming up with Kristen Stewart.
Oh my God.
I know, like the sharks are the new zombies.
Oh my God. All right. For him, we will do the 47 meters down at some point.
Yeah, the 47 Meters Down, actually, it kind of seems like it's going to be a little bit better of a plot line, but maybe the other one with Kristen Stewart's probably going to have better production value. I don't know. I will probably watch both and let you know which one is suitable for a podcast. Or this is the Zombie Shark Network now.
Right. All right. Well, this is Zombie Shark podcaster is probably going to get this podcast up and do a little knitting before she goes to bed.
This one's going to obsessively check her dogs in the backyard via her Ring app.
Hopefully we don't have to use our bug out bag. That's my next thing. So
yeah. So until next week, stay out of the water. Don't get set on fire. Don't have your house broken into.
Right.
Have your head checked. And just remember, take it one dead day at a time. Have a safe week, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.